Admiral Zeftar of the Hegemony War Council stared at the holographic display with what could only be described as cosmic bewilderment. The 7-foot reptilian commander's scaled fingers drummed against the crystalline table as he processed the impossible data streaming across the tactical readout. "Explain this to me again," he hissed, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 17 star systems. "How exactly did a species that hasn't even achieved faster-than-light travel manage to this?" Commander Vixnall, a spider-like being with 8 compound eyes, shifted nervously. Each eye focused on a different aspect of the battlefield analysis, creating a kaleidoscope of anxiety. "Sir, the humans, they don't fight like any civilization we've encountered in 3 millennia of expansion." The display showed the smoldering remains of what had been the hegemony's most fortified position. In the Terran system, where once stood the impenetrable Fortress Omega, a battle station that had taken 50 years to construct and had never fallen in 2 centuries of warfare, now drifted only debris and the fading heat signatures of defeated ships. "We had overwhelming technological superiority," Zeftar continued, his tail lashing behind him. "Our plasma cannons could vaporize their primitive missiles before they came within 1,000 kilometers. Our shields could withstand the concentrated fire of a dozen of their largest warships." "Yes, sir. That's exactly what they counted on." The Admiral's head snapped toward his subordinate. "Elaborate." Vixnall's primary manipulator activated the tactical replay. The humans began by sending wave after wave of what appeared to be standard assault craft. Predictably, we destroyed them all. Our automated defense systems performed flawlessly, just as they were designed to do, against conventional attacks. Then how? They weren't carrying weapons, sir. They were carrying engineers. The replay zoomed in on the debris field. What had initially appeared to be random wreckage now revealed itself to be carefully positioned components. Twisted metal that wasn't quite twisted enough, scattered hull fragments that formed suspiciously geometric patterns, electronic components that continued to emit faint signals despite appearing completely destroyed. "The humans sacrificed nearly 1,000 ships," Vixnall continued, "but each destroyed vessel left behind exactly what they intended to leave behind. While our sensors registered successful eliminations, they were actually constructing something." Admiral Zeftar felt a chill run down his spine, a sensation his species hadn't experienced since evolving past the need for primitive fear responses. "Constructing what?" "A weapon, sir, but not just any weapon. They built it from the inside out, using our own defensive grid as the framework. Every piece of debris was precisely calculated to interact with our station's gravitational field, power distribution network, and structural weak points." The tactical display shifted to show energy readings from the moment of the station's destruction. Rather than a conventional explosion, the data revealed something far more terrifying. A cascade failure that had turned Fortress Omega's own defensive systems against itself. "They turned our greatest strength into our greatest weakness," the commander explained. "Our shields didn't just fail, they imploded, creating a gravitational anomaly that compressed the entire station into a singularity before dissipating. From the outside, it would have looked like spontaneous collapse. But the humans had spent months calculating the exact resonance frequencies needed to achieve this effect." Zeftar stared at the empty space where his invincible fortress had once stood. "Months? But first contact was only 6 weeks ago." "Sir." Vixnall's 8 eyes converged on a single point, a gesture that, in his species, indicated the delivery of particularly dire news. "According to our intelligence reports, the humans began planning this attack before we even entered their solar system." "Impossible. How could they have known our capabilities?" "They didn't need to know our specific capabilities, sir. They studied every recorded engagement in our military history. Every battle report we filed with the Galactic Council, every tactical analysis published in military journals. Every training simulation we've conducted in the past 3 centuries. They built psychological profiles of our commanders, identified patterns in our strategic thinking, and predicted our responses with 94.7% accuracy." The Admiral's legs gave out beneath him, and he collapsed into his command chair. In his species, evolution, such a display of weakness would have meant immediate death. But confronted with the implications of what he was hearing, survival instincts seemed suddenly irrelevant. They knew exactly how we would react to their primitive technology. Vixnell continued relentlessly. They knew we would rely on our automated systems. They knew we would interpret their sacrificial attacks as desperate, ineffective strikes. They knew we would never suspect that beings capable of such detailed planning could simultaneously appear so chaotic. Chaotic, Zeftar repeated numbly. Yes, sir. While we were celebrating our overwhelming victories against their inferior forces, they were implementing the most sophisticated long-term strategy in recorded military history. They turned our own success against us. A new voice cut through the command chamber, young, confident, and speaking accented Galactic standard. Actually, Admiral, we prefer to call it aggressive problem-solving. Both officers spun toward the source of the voice. Standing in the chamber's entrance, somehow having bypassed every security system the hegemony had ever devised, was a human female in a simple blue uniform. Captain Sarah Chen, Terran Defense Force, she said, offering what her species apparently considered a friendly gesture, baring her teeth in what they called a smile. I'm here to discuss terms. Admiral Zeftar found his voice. Terms? You realize you're vastly outnumbered. This was just one battle station. We have entire fleets. Had. Captain Chen corrected gently. You had entire fleets. Check your long-range sensors. The tactical display shifted automatically to show the broader theater of operations, where the hegemony's invasion force had been positioned just hours earlier. Now only expanding clouds of debris marked their locations. How, was all Zeftar could manage. Same principle, larger scale, Chen explained, settling into a chair without being invited. Another disconcerting human behavior. While you were focused on our desperate defense of Earth, we were busy introducing some creative modifications to your supply lines. Turns out when you're depending on automated logistics networks, it's remarkably easy to deliver exactly the wrong components to exactly the right places. She pulled out a small device that looked absurdly primitive compared to hegemony technology. Your ships are designed to be perfect, efficient, predictable. They follow protocols precisely, trust their systems completely, and never adapt beyond their original parameters. It makes them incredibly effective against conventional opponents. But humans aren't conventional opponents, Vixnell stated. It wasn't a question. No, Commander, we're not. We're problem solvers. And the wonderful thing about problems is that there's almost always a solution. You just have to be willing to think creatively enough to find it. Admiral Zeftar looked at his tactical displays, his defeated fleets, and the small human sitting casually in his command chamber. What are your terms? Captain Chen's smile widened. Oh, Admiral, I think you misunderstand. We're not here to negotiate terms of surrender. She stood, and despite being barely half the height of either alien, officer somehow commanded the entire room. We're here to offer you a job. The war had ended before it truly began. And in the aftermath, as the Galactic Council scrambled to understand how the most technologically advanced military force in known space had been defeated by a species that still used chemical propulsion, one thing became abundantly clear. They would need to rewrite their military manuals, assuming, of course, the humans were willing to let them.